Hi, it's Jane. Thanks for joining me. This week I was, sorry, bronchitis. This week I was with a client and we were working on negotiating. And I got to tell you, there are some times when I walk in a room and I can tell that nobody is excited to see me. And when we're talking about negotiation, usually that's one of those times. Anyway, one of the things that I gave to them was my top 10 to-do list around communication in negotiating. I thought maybe 3 of those would be helpful for you today and something to think about as you continue your week. The first thing is realize that understanding and agreeing are not the same thing. It's okay to say to somebody, yes, I understand. It doesn't mean that you're agreeing with what they say. In fact, getting to understanding is critical when it comes to negotiating. It's important that you understand the interests of the other person. Try to figure out what their bottom line is. Try to understand where they're coming from. So understanding is really important, but realize understanding and agreeing aren't the same thing. Secondly, use the 100% rule. What is the 100% rule? The 100% rule means that I start the conversation by finding one thing that the other person and I can agree on 100%. It could be something as simple as saying, Jane, I hate that we're here, but I think we could both agree that it's important to both of us that you have a great experience with our company. Find something, anything positive that you can agree on 100%. And finally, put your butt in the right place. Now I want you to listen to these 2 sentences. Jane, I'm sorry I yelled at you, but you really offended me. And Jane, you really offended me, but I'm sorry I yelled at you. So in the first scenario, Jane, I'm sorry I yelled at you, but you really offended me. Whose fault am I making that? In that scenario, I'm making my yelling the fault of the other person. That's a pretty crappy apology, right? But when I say, Jane, you really offended me, but I'm sorry I yelled at you, I'm taking ownership. So if you're going to use but, put your butt in the right place. Now, as a person who studied improv for many years, I kind of prefer that you take but out of your vernacular altogether. What could you use instead? In improv, there's a technique called yes and. The intent of yes and is that you don't negate everything that the other person said. You're adding on. You're adding something to the conversation. So instead of saying yes, but, try to say yes and. So those are my 3 things for the day. Number 1, realize understanding and agreeing are not the same thing. Perfectly okay to say I understand. Doesn't mean that you're going along with whatever that person is saying. Number 2, the 100% rule. Find something positive that you can agree with 100% and start the conversation there. And finally, put your butt in the right place. I hope this is helpful.